Hey there, everyone. Before we start the show, we here at Popcorn for Dinner want to give a big shout out to our good friend and illustrator, Kyle Kedzik, for helping us celebrate making it to 40 episodes with some brand new custom artwork, which is now up on all of our social media accounts. We love it. We hope you love it. And if you're looking for some new custom artwork for your business or project, you can look him up on Facebook at Kyle Kedzik, or even drop him a line at kylekedzik@gmail.com. That's KYLEKEDZUCH@gmail.com. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
John Hughes Month, moving right along with yet another coming-of-age teen drama comedy, sort of his forte.
Yeah.
And this one is, as much as I said last week that 16 Candles was like a pretty big cultural thing, this one blows it out of the water.
Yes.
The movie that obviously we are talking about is the 1985 classic, 80s classic, possibly like definitive 80s movie, The Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Was this a big movie for you?
This is one that I had seen a couple times when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
It's still been easily 15 years since I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely in the realm of, oh yeah, that's one that I should probably rewatch as like an adult.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like it's been too long since I've last at least like watched like a chunk of it or something, like on TV or something. But I definitely haven't sat down to watch The Breakfast Club in a long, long time.
Yes.
And this one is kind of almost like an oddball on this show in terms of it being like one of the greats, and one that we sort of have more familiarity with than usual. There's not so much of like, and then what was this? Because it's like, well, I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still questions. I don't have a boatload of notes.
Yeah.
But I was still like engaged in watching the movie. It's hard to like follow the plot because there isn't one. And that's kind of what makes it so great. It's literally, it's just like these 5 sort of misfit kids from different cliques hang out in detention all day and grow to learn about each other and accept each other and all that kind of good, jolly stuff.
Yeah.
While watching it, one of my first notes was just like, there's so much great character work done on these kids in the first like 2 minutes of this movie of just them getting dropped off and how they get dropped off and, all of that where you immediately know who they are. And it's really great that it's like, just like cut through the bullshit. We don't need, 10 minutes setting up each and every one of these kids in their own scenes, like in their own houses, getting ready. It's like, no, right out in front of the building, just show them for like 15, 20 seconds interacting with their folks, getting dropped off for detention.
Yeah. Saturday detention.
So it's like, everything that you need to know to start this movie, you have in like 2 minutes, maybe.
And the characters are so like one of my early notes was John Hughes is really good at writing like believable people as characters. Like, like obviously there's some exaggerations.
Yeah, my mind goes immediately to Bender and how obnoxious and outrageous he is. Or it's like I don't buy him as a real person. He's got so many good lines, and you know what I mean. He kind of makes me think of like Randall from Clerks.
Yeah,
it's like he's got all the best lines. He's always got a snarky comeback.
He's the movie character.
Yeah,
the rest of them though, you can see that nerdy kid being just like a kid at school.
Oh yeah,
they're so well written
and well cast.
Yes,
and dressed and all that kind of stuff. Like, as much as it might be a bit of like a on the nose sort of thing of like, yeah, he wears his Letterman jacket
to
detention, because he's a jock who would wear his Letterman jacket to detention. You know, like, what? Really?
It's like, that's just what that guy does.
Yeah,
like,
but it's like such a perfect like signpost. Like you see them all sitting there and you just know by looking at them where each of them sort of falls and belongs. And it's just like, God damn it, it's just so perfect. And you just get right into it. I knew ahead of time, like, essentially what it was. You know, it's like there's never going to be any surprises of like, oh, they do this? It's like, no, it's them all day in detention.
Yeah.
And they have little adventures in the midst of it, but it still takes place in that fucking library. Like it's, you know, they don't go somewhere else for very long. It all comes back to that library. But I was a little surprised at the stuff I forgot. There was really just one specific one that like really blindsided me. Like there's plenty of stuff where it was like, oh yeah, geez, they call him a fag a lot. I don't really remember, or just stuff like that. But the one that really like, oh my God, was the scene with the principal and Bender. Like the one where he gives him 1 billion detentions is like pretty in my head. Like as it was happening, it was like, oh yeah, and he just goes and goes and goes and won't let up and everything. Like, okay, yeah, I totally remember that. It's when he takes him back to that like storage closet or whatever to lock him away from the other kids.
Yeah.
And then tells him that is like, after you graduate, one day I'm going to find you and I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
I did not remember that in the slightest.
Me neither.
Okay.
I was very much sitting there like, what? How? What? When did this happen?
Yeah, because like I recall that principal being more of like a goof.
Yeah.
Like that's what I remembered, where he was just like, these dumb kids will never sneak out around under my nose or do any of these things. And then they do it and it's like, oh, you rascals. Yeah. But I totally forgot about him just being like, I will literally, once you are an adult, we are throwing fists.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, dude. And even the like fake out, like, oh man, I was like, what the
bagging
fuck?
him.
Yeah, like literally just punch me in the face so I can fucking punch you.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that is crazy. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
So in my head, watching it this time, I was like, okay, he's going to be kind of goofy, but you know what? I bet you I'll be like on his side now, watching these kids, specifically Bender, and how absolutely outrageous he is and like just a lunatic.
Yeah.
And how like the entire movie, basically, the only reason anything happens in this movie is because Bender is obnoxious, you know, and it's like he gets people talking because he's like insulting them and just being a complete dickhead, and that gets people talking, and then eventually everything in the movie happens because you know, just because of that.
He takes the screw out of the door.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's the one who basically gets anything going. Like otherwise, it would have been a movie of just kids sitting there. You know,
silently in a library,
silently for the whole 8 hours, and it would have been completely uneventful because none of those other kids was going to do anything if he didn't do anything. Right. It was clear, you know what I mean? It's like they all didn't want to be there, but they were all in their own heads, and so it was like, okay, yeah. As an adult, I'm sitting there like, Bender, fucking just stop, dude. Like it's so like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really like those kids when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Like if I was sitting there and someone wouldn't stop talking out of turn for no reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just like trying to like put on a show for everyone. Look at how funny I am. You know, I didn't really like them then either. So now as an adult, it's like double annoying.
Fuck
like,
you, kid.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, dude, shut up and sit down. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like I get it. You've got issues. Everyone's fucking got issues, but like, shut up. So I was totally expecting to be like Vernon, right? Vernon, the principal, is going to seem reasonable now in this watch.
Yeah.
And Bender's going to be the worst. And Bender was kind of the worst.
Yeah.
But I was like sort of on Vernon's side until that scene.
Yes.
And I was like, I completely forgot about this. This dude's also a lunatic. Like it's
holy shit.
Yeah, like it doesn't necessarily excuse Bender and make him better. But it definitely takes me off of his side. Like I am no longer on the principal's side after he threatens to just like beat the shit out of that kid.
Yeah.
That was a weird moment.
That was very weird. And then actually like locking him in a closet. Not even a room, a closet.
Yeah, like a full on, there's no way out of here.
Yeah.
It couldn't possibly be a fire exit in that closet. Yeah. So it's like anything that fucking happens is, real bad, but he clearly didn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because it's like, again, in a similar way, but not nearly as rapey, to Anthony Michael Hall in 16 Candles. It's like Judd Nelson gives this fucking awesome performance.
Yeah.
It's just that this kid sucks, like, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he's right at certain points, about them even when they don't want to admit it or whatever. So, of course, I'm not sitting here like, and Bender clearly is the worst character in the movie. It's like, no.
He needs to be there.
Yeah. He's the driving force of everything. But no, something I thought was pretty funny. They go on that adventure off to Bender's locker at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what preceded that, but it's like clearly he has convinced all of these kids to go with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm going to go to my locker. Everyone, we should all go to my locker. And he does that. He has that little line about like, feels good to be bad, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To Claire and everything. And it's like, man, I never felt that way. It felt bad to be bad. I had that horrible feeling in my stomach of like, oh, this is bad. Never felt good. But he essentially drags them all out of the like library, putting them in harm's way of like getting caught by the principal. And then when they're coming back after he gets his weed and sticks it into Johnson's pants,
yes.
and then like they're trying to get back to the library and they run into that gate that's down and everything, and it's like, oh, Andy, you chose the wrong way, you dick. And then Bender's like, no, only I'm gonna get in trouble. Yeah. You guys go back. And then he runs off and he distracts the principal so that they can get back to the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that really heroic if it was his idea in the first place? Like, he convinced them all to come with him. If he just left, they could have been like, Bender left. Thought he wouldn't. Like they really, it was like them going with, and then Bender being like, I will save us. Like, wait a minute.
I mean, I guess there is a little bit of nobility in it and sacrificing yourself so everyone else can not get in trouble.
Yeah.
Because he knows that this time it'll be a slap on the wrist sort of situation.
What, for him?
Yeah.
But isn't that when he gets thrown in the closet? Because he dragged them all out of the room? Or did he go in?
Oh, no. Yes.
Now I'm getting it all mixed up.
Yes, that is, never mind. That is what got him
sent into the closet. Okay,
yes.
Yeah. Because, sorry, my timeline was suddenly all fucked up. And I was like, wait a minute. Was that after he crawled through the roof and fell into the library? No. That was wait. I was totally. It's so weird. Like, since
lunch happened right before they snuck out to go to the locker.
Gotcha. Okay.
One thing real quick about lunch that I noticed, of the many items that, what was the jock's name?
Andy, I think.
Of the many items that he had for lunch was a bag of Matt's chocolate chip cookies, which is awesome because those are delicious. And it's a like regional thing.
Yeah.
Did we ever get Johnson's first name?
Brian,
right. Brian Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great line during lunch because Bender asked him if his mom married Mr. Rogers. And he replied with, no, Mr. Johnson. Like, kid.
Yeah, he's adorable. It's pretty hysterical.
Oh.
Like, it was almost weird seeing him in this again after watching 16 Candles.
Mm-hmm.
Not even in a sense of like, because the characters are so different. It's like, oh, they're sort of similar. He's the kind of nerdy, brainy, geeky guy, whatever. He's just a little less creepy in this.
Yeah.
He's a little more toned down.
Yeah. He's the under pressure nerd.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the lead dork.
Yeah. Very important distinctions. But he was clearly going through a growth spurt.
Yeah.
Did you notice a couple, like there was this one shot, because like there were multiple shots where he looked like a tiny little kid, kind of like he was in 16 Candles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then there was this one shot where fucking Emilio Estevez and Judd Nelson are like squaring off like right in the middle of the frame, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Well, both one on each side of the frame.
Yeah.
And you can see that Judd Nelson looks like he's like almost a full like head taller than Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And then fucking Brian comes into frame and he is about as tall as Judd Nelson. And I was like, holy shit. Like, what is, for a moment I was like, is he like on a table or something? Like, is there something that he's supposed to be on that I'm not seeing, but is in the movie that's making him taller? And it's like, no, holy shit. He like just sprouted. Yeah. Like it was weird too. Cause I feel like it was earlier in the movie. And then there were later scenes where he was clearly like smaller.
Yeah.
Like that one sequence, I forget who the fuck it was. But I think Emilio Estevez was hanging out, and then it was like Emilio Estevez. No. It was Judd Nelson. It was Judd Nelson talking to Molly Ringwald, and fucking Anthony Michael Hall is up on those like on that bar, kind of like sitting back over it. That was the weirdest. I was like, oh my god, how is he sitting like that?
Yeah,
was he perched on something behind him? Because I don't understand how he was holding. Is he just that tiny that he could do that? Like hold himself up that way with his legs like just over the railing like that? But he looked like a Muppet is what I'm getting at. He looked like a Muppet, like sitting up on there. He looked so small. And it was just like, oh he got smaller since earlier in the movie. That was weird.
But did you notice that Andy hotboxed that whole room by himself?
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on there. Like I guess we could just talk about that sequence in general of the kids all getting stoned scenes.
Yeah. Because Bender comes back, he falls through the ceiling from climbing in the ceiling from the closet.
Yeah, and then comes immediately after that comes the of course movie where he's looking up her skirt and does something to her. And then
pushed his face forward between her legs.
No, yeah, I know. I just mean you don't know what exactly he is doing.
Yeah.
But she reacts and squishes his head with her legs or whatever. And my note was just, God, poor Molly. Both of these movies so far have just been creepy people touching her. Yeah. So bad. Because it was just oh, well, that creepy girl doesn't talk, so everyone's just going to stare and get boners about her. God damn it, that's weird. But yeah, and then Vernon falls for their ruse of coughing and covering up the noises that Bender is making like an asshole. It's you're hiding. Stop fucking with people and making noise. What are you doing? But that did include quite possibly my favorite line, which was can you describe the ruckus, sir? That one kind of caught me off guard in terms of remembering it. It wasn't one that totally stuck out to me oh yeah, this line's coming. It kind of hit me anew watching it this time. Can you describe the ruckus? It's brilliant. And Vernon somehow falls for their ruse and just leaves them again. Which is you get over it after the first couple of times, but the first couple of times where they start getting rowdy in their seats and talking and yelling at each other and shit, you're where the fuck is Vernon? Yeah. You're right there, dude.
You told them you would be right there.
Yeah, it was sort of silly, but then eventually it was okay, they closed the door. I get it, it's a big heavy door. Yeah. But it is kind of silly that he can't hear them, but you're just gonna deal with it. That's just how this is.
Well, then
they're gonna get
well, Vern then gets distracted by the janitor.
Right. I just mean in general, you're sitting there and you're okay, if they haven't necessarily specified the principal's whereabouts in a while, so it's you're not 100% sure where he is, but it's it gets to the point sometimes where they're yelling and screaming at each other that you're no one, nothing, no one hears this. Okay, fine. And they go up and they finally get stoned. Wait a minute, now I'm really confused. Okay, timeline wise. So Bender, they go to his locker, they get the weed. Right. He shoves it in Johnson's pants. Right. They all run back to the classroom. Bender goes and distracts Vernon. Right. And gets caught. Right. He then gets brought back to the library. Yes. Okay. Because I was because then he has that hilarious line when Vernon asks him where's your weed or whatever he calls it. He's
or it says something about smoking it or something.
Yeah, and he's like, it's in Johnson's underwear, sir. And everyone laughs, and Vernon's just like, ugh, like thinking it's just a joke. And I thought that was hysterical. And he's like, he's telling him the truth.
Yeah.
But he thinks it's a joke, and that makes it all the funnier.
Yeah.
So then what gets him dragged out and thrown into the closet then?
He was just going to get his stuff, I guess.
But what happened? I don't remember exactly what made him go like, all right, fuck it, Bender. You're going into the closet.
I think the sneaking out was the fuck it moment. But Vern brought Bender back to the library for
the
movie
talking to in front of the other kids,
yeah,
I guess,
for
or whatever.
movie purposes.
Yeah, I feel like there's something crucial we're totally forgetting, but I have no idea what it is, so I can't say for certain.
Yeah.
But either way, he gets back. They're smoking the weed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Johnson's is probably the most realistic reaction. Where he's just like, I'm going to put these sunglasses on because they're dope.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fucking just like be a weirdo and laugh at shit. And like, you know, it's like that was totally realistic and whatever.
Yeah.
And did Molly Ringwald wind up smoking pot? I forget.
She did, yes.
Okay. And she just sort of talks.
Yeah.
Right. Like so there's no like, oh, like she doesn't get like loopy or anything like that. Everyone has fairly realistic reactions to it where it's just like it's mostly like internal anyway. So it's not like you're gonna see someone like going weed crazy and then Andy goes fucking weed crazy. I was like, that is the most batshit reaction. Like I understand, like you mentioned, like he just hotboxed that whole room. What I want to know, like, did he just go to Bender and was like, hey, can I just roll one of these for myself?
I don't
and
know.
Bender was like, cool. Or did he just take it and roll one for himself? Because like Bender looked a little surprised when he came out of that room.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, they're passing a joint out here. Why does Andy have his own joint? Where did he get it?
And why does it make enough smoke to fill the whole room?
I mean, I could understand something burning for a while, like especially if he's bad at it or whatever, you know, and like wraps too much paper and
this is true.
Tons of smoke or some shit like that. But it was just like, what? Like it was Bender's weed, and it just seems wild that he just, I guess he helped himself to it or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and then just goes fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And I could not for the life of me reconcile that. I was like, how do these kids all react so realistically? And then Andy goes insane. You know, because it's like, it seems like, unlike a lot of times in movies, like, you know, where someone writes about the effects of something they've never done before, so it's like wrong. And it's like, oh, someone smoked a little bit of weed and they saw this crazy alien hallucination. Like that doesn't happen. But in this case, it was like, yeah, they get high like these kids who are just like hanging around laughing and talking. But Andy's apparently was laced with PCP or something. Like I don't know
LSD?
I don't know what happened to him, but he just goes fucking insane.
He also popped a Molly.
That was like one of the weirdest moments to me, was him just fucking like running around and punching and like rocking out. Yeah. It's like, there's no music playing right now. Like there's music playing in the movie, but not in the room.
Yeah. They hadn't hooked up the speaker
yet. So it's like you take
Yeah.
that scene, drop all the music out, and then watch him doing it, and you'd be like, this man's a lunatic. He's just insane.
What is going on?
Yeah. Like
and then he goes back to the room for more. You have had enough, sir.
You have clearly had your fill. My God. There's this whole thing that I guess something to discuss. Movies like this always get that like 30 years later looking at it through a different lens. Typically like a lot of times it'll be like some sort of article from some like comedy website will write about it or something about like the real world issues or like what totally sucks about, or you know, that kind of thing, where people get uptight. And I guess uptight's a bad way to put it, 'cause it makes it seem like I'm like picking a side on it, but people get upset looking back on it that Ali Sheedy's character has to become pretty for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, again, I knew that was coming. Seen it plenty of times. I know that that's how this movie ends.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of waiting for it to be like, I wonder exactly how it's played. Because, when you remember something like that, it's broad strokes. It's like, yeah. And then she looks, like a goth throughout the whole movie. And then at like the very end, they like pretty her up or something. There's always, the two sides to it of the people who are like, fuck that. She shouldn't have to change herself for anybody.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side who are like, she was playing with her dandruff and hiding behind her hair and talking in like squeaks previously. Like, that's not a healthy way to live.
Yeah.
You should be able to like, break someone out of that and have that be seen as a good thing.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of validity, I think, on both sides of that. Where it's like, it is true that she's like kind of my thing, what it really centers on to me, the thing that like turns it from good to bad, because I totally agreed, like throughout that whole opening like 30 minutes of the movie where it's literally just like, and cut to Ali Sheedy in the corner as she like squeaks and slams her head on the desk. You know what I mean? Just acts like a lunatic.
Yeah.
And is, making her ridiculous sandwich with the pixie sticks and the Captain Crunch and shit and all that. Drinking the soda off of the like library table when it spills and stuff, where it's just like, okay, look, I get like individualism and stuff, but you're being really, really fucking weird.
Yeah.
And like off-putting to other people. And I get it if you don't want people in your zone, you know what I mean? If you're trying to keep people at bay, working.
Good job.
Yeah, way to go. But there is just that like feeling of like, but that's not really good for you, and not just the like sugar sandwich, but like as a person, your soul, the whole like, I'm gonna keep everyone away by acting like a lunatic all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's that one moment when she and Andy are walking and he turns and like asks her something. I don't even remember exactly what it is, but it's like, oh, why are you here, or something like that, or whatever.
No, first he asks her what's her poison.
What
she wants to drink from the vending machine.
That's
in
right.
the teacher's lounge.
But then she just doesn't respond.
Yeah.
At all. Or even like acknowledge that he has said just like spoken words to her. And it's like, look, I get it, man. I was definitely a kind of person who was like not comfortable just like hanging with new people that I didn't know or anything. Like if I was in a situation like Breakfast Club and I was sitting around with a bunch of kids that I didn't really know and were from different places, you know what I mean? It's like I wouldn't walk over to them and be like, hey guys, how you doing?
Yeah.
But if someone was like, hey, you want a drink? I'd be like, okay, because I'm a human being who understands how to talk to another person.
Yeah.
Like she was like way over the edge of being like antisocial. So bringing her out of her shell, good. Like it. I don't even necessarily mind the hair change.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's very much like symbolic. You know what I mean? It's like she uses the hair, she hides behind the hair, you pull it back, you're open, you know what I mean? It's like it's changing her perspective and stuff. So it's like that. Cool, awesome.
Yeah.
Also totally on board with that. It's the fact that they change your wardrobe.
Yeah.
And it's like you could get away with it like in universe by being like, they're probably dirty and smelly because she's weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But just in terms of how it looks, it's like that's what makes it like lame and superficial. It's like, oh no, you do kind of think like, don't be yourself.
Yeah.
Wear the pretty stuff.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You don't look like a lady in your weird clothes. Wear lady clothes. And it's kind of like, oh, you took it too far.
Yeah. You were so close.
Yeah, it's like, because I thought her outfit and wardrobe and everything was astounding, and I loved it. I thought it was just so cool.
Yeah.
And it really bummed me out that I was like, oh yeah, they like fully give her a full-on everything makeover. And it was like, where did those clothes come from? Anyway, I don't know who, like, was she wearing that under her clothes? Is it one of Holly Ringwald's dresses? I don't understand where it came from.
I don't know.
I think that's also one of the big things. It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? I get that she could do her makeup.
Yeah.
But clothes? Where are her clothes?
Well, she...
Oh, she did have that giant bag.
Yeah.
She could have jammed it all in there.
Yeah. With so many tampons. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's I know you as a guy don't understand as much, but that is so many tampons. Like that is. I mean,
I get it to a degree. It's not like, yeah, who could ever be hungry enough to eat that many? like I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, yeah, that's way too many.
I was thinking more in terms of specifics, but we won't go there. That's a different podcast.
I liked that everybody kind of got called on their shit, which is obviously the point.
Yeah.
But I like that it happens, you know what I mean? That kind of no one is really left. Well, now that I fucking think about it, what did Brian do? Really? You know?
What do you mean?
Like, well, okay.
No one really called him on anything because he didn't have anything to really be called on.
That's sort of what I mean, is that it's like he was kind of the actual, like, sort of innocent of the thing, because it's
well, he brought a flare gun to school.
Right. I don't mean not deserving of detention.
Okay.
I mean more because it's like Bender, obviously, like he's a fucking lunatic who brings a switchblade and is a psychopath and all that kind of stuff. So it's like he gets called several times throughout the movie, and it's great and all, but
yes, deserved every time.
Yeah, deserved pretty much every time. And then Andy doesn't. I mean, he gets made fun of by Bender, but he doesn't necessarily get like railroaded by anybody. Like nobody like goes at him
because
he does. Yeah. Exactly, I was gonna say because he does it himself. He beautiful fucking monologue. I forgot how great it was, and just as it was happening, I was like, this is so fucking good. And to hear a character like admit that they like did something and they don't even know why and they feel terrible for it.
Yeah.
And like thinking about something they did and feeling bad for the person that they did it to. Like actually being able to put themselves in that person's shoes.
Yeah.
Like that was heartbreaking. Being like the humiliation he must have felt.
Yeah.
It was so real and so like, holy shit, this rocks.
Yeah.
Like not the situation.
Right.
He's having a horrible moral conundrum. But this scene rocks. And then, I keep just wanting to call her Molly because she's Molly, but Claire, she got detention for skipping school to go shopping, right? And obviously I do feel bad about, her parents use her to get back at each other and all that. Like you feel a bit for her there. But there is a lot of well-deserved shit flung, usually from Bender. Sometimes he goes overboard with it, but enough of like, come on.
Yeah.
Like your problems that you're crying about are not nearly real. Like, I mean, they're real, but it's like, I mean, shit, dude, Brian was going to kill himself. Like, the fact that it goes in, like the fact that it ends as a joke, where it's like, oh, well, it was a flare gun and that's pretty dumb and all that. And everyone starts laughing and blah, blah, blah. And you think back to that burned out locker from the opening credits and you're like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And it kind of glosses over the fact that it's like, oh my God, this kid contemplated suicide because he got an F in shop.
He got an F on a project.
Yeah, on a project in shop. Like, that's fucking gnarly.
Yeah, it ruined his 4.0 because he'll have a B at best.
Yeah, like that is like a heady thing to sort of deal with in a movie like this. And I really liked the fact that it like went there. I just thought it was a little too quick. Like it felt like they wanted to go there as a movie. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna go there. He's gonna talk about he brought a gun to school and he was gonna kill himself. And they were going to immediately undercut it by being like, but he's such a doofus. It was a flare gun and it burned up his locker and oh, what a dope. And then it's just kind of over. And it was like, what about that though? Like, that's kind of huge.
There was a somewhat similar, not to the same degree, but somewhat similar moment with Andy where he said that, sometimes I just wish my knee would give out.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like, dude,
that was gnarly.
That's a dark thought for a kid.
Just being like, I have all of this, like, because he said, I mean, I know he has that thing towards the beginning where he's talking about like he has like the abilities, he just doesn't care about it. Like himself.
Yeah, he's just like naturally talented at wrestling.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to do it.
But he doesn't care. Like there's he it's not a passion of his.
Exactly. So it is a bit crazy to think that it's like I have all this ability. It's a possibility that I could do this at even like higher levels, but I don't want to do it so badly
That I just wish my knee would give out.
Yeah, that I wish that I could just be robbed of this natural ability because I don't want to be forced to do it as my life.
Yeah.
Like, that's heavy shit.
Yeah.
In terms of Ali Sheedy, Allison.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck was she in there for again? I forget. Everyone lies about stuff so much in this movie that I sort of stopped paying attention to what they were talking about, because it was like I started writing this big old note about like, why don't I remember how fucked up it is that Ali Sheedy is fucking her therapist, and then she's like, also, I'm lying about that. And I was like, oh shit, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I don't.
I'm not a nympho. I'm a compulsive liar.
Yeah. But
she
I was
was
like,
adorable.
Oh, yeah.
In like the weirdest way, but it was perfect.
Yeah, but no, yeah, I was just like, what? What? That's what her deal is? Holy shit. And then I remembered it was like, oh, right, she's lying about that.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck. And I had to delete a big chunk of notes I was writing about it. So I was like, this is fucking, of all the things in this movie for people to get mad about. And I was like, oh, right, she was lying. I forgot.
She was there because she didn't have anything better to do.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that is brilliant. I forgot about that. And that is such a good moment.
I specifically wrote that down because I loved it.
And the fact that everybody just dies laughing about that. Like, that's so like.
And then while she's laughing with them, she's like, you're laughing at me.
Yeah, that's a really great point in the movie. And I really like the fact that everyone laughs at and with her in that moment. You know, it's like you imagine, you know, a scene like that. Like if she had for some reason mentioned that in the first like 15 minutes of them sitting there, I'm sure they all would have been like, what a fucking weirdo. Why would you do that? Oh my God, she's so weird. Like, let's never look or talk to her again. You know, like they would have completely just been like, fucking psycho anyway. But the fact that they've been there all day, they've gone through all this shit together, they've like sat and talked and argued and cried and all that, and it's just like, I didn't even need to be here. And it's like, that's the funniest thing in the world now.
Yeah.
After all of this, now that's the funniest fucking thing in the world. I don't know how I completely forgot about that line. I will say I was a little bit disappointed. Like, really, America, by the 80s, we hadn't gotten over our fucking, like, super lame, like, national joke of sushi is gross. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, I get that it's like, you know, like a high class lunch for
also maybe don't bring sushi as a bag lunch.
Yeah, that definitely threw me. Like that was my first thought was like, has that been sitting and getting warm?
I hope
and
there's
like,
an ice pack.
Yeah, like that's not the way you want to eat sushi. But the fact that like they're like grossed out by it, I was like, really? 80s?
Yeah.
We were still there as a nation. We couldn't just admit that maybe sometimes raw fish and seaweed with the right flavors is actually delicious.
Yes.
You idiots. But sorry, there was another thing that that was right near another note I was looking at. Bender is like most of my first like 14 or 15 notes just by like, he's a lunatic. Oh my God. Man, Bender is obnoxious. But the two lines here that I have written down, one that bummed me out because I was like, oh, I hate people like this. When Andy, I think it's Andy, at least a few of them maybe, all gang up on him. And they're just talking about, it's like, why do you have to be such a dick all the time? Like, why do you have to insult people?
Yeah.
And Bender's response of, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you are the worst kind of person. You are the worst kind of person. So bad, I hate you. Like that's a bad way to start the movie.
Yeah.
With one of those kinds of lines. It's just like, oh, you piece of shit. But there was another line in here that I did not understand, and I don't know if it's like 80s slang or I'm missing something or I misheard it. But there's it's after the first time the principal is talking to him and he gives him the shit about, what was it, Barry Manilow? Yeah, about
Barry
his wardrobe.
No, you rate his wardrobe.
Yeah, I wrote, what a suave ass principal when he walked in, and then they made a joke about it, and I was like, well, fuck you, I think he looks good. Like, it's a pretty, I mean, for a principal,
yeah, it's
a suave ass outfit. He's got a black dress shirt. That's not normal.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool, but okay, fine, make fun of him. But the next, I think it's like one of the first things said after, I think it's after he leaves.
Okay.
He like tells him whatever, and then he leaves the room. And Bender says, that man is a brownie hound. What the fuck does that mean? Like, he doesn't literally mean that he loves eating brownies, right? Because
I don't think so. I assumed it was something more akin to like a brown noser, but I don't.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know in context how that works. I don't know.
It was just the weirdest line, like a brownie hound. Weird. Like, it's so funny how slang from different times just sounds like different languages sometimes. Like, that sounds like words I know. Brownie hound. Also, oh my God. What? Oh, did you look it up?
I did.
Oh, what is it?
A male homosexual.
Oh, well, that's
so there you
less
go.
fun than I was hoping.
Yeah.
More gay jokes. Anyway, one thing I did love that I wrote down later in the movie. I don't even know if it truly was a joke. I'm hoping it was.
Okay.
Just because like it was one line followed by another line. And the line that followed was such a hysterical commentary on the first line, but they like cut away so fast to like other stuff and they're talking about other stuff. That I was like, they didn't give that joke time to land. Did they not think that was a joke? Because it seems like it to me. Because Andy's big thing they talk about is that, like, he lets other people tell him what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, he lets his dad tell him that he's going to be a wrestler and he whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're kind of like, I think they're in the circle or something like that. And they're talking about, like, everybody's problems. Like, your problem is that you're like this. Your problem is that you're like that. And I think it was Allison.
It was.
Says... He can't think for himself. And he says, she's right. and then it just moves on. And I was like, that's like the best joke in the movie. That's so funny.
I also wrote it down.
Okay, because that was hysterical, but did it feel like it was a joke to you? Like, did it feel super like on purpose? Because to me, how fast it went by, I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Did nobody catch that? Because that's hysterical.
I was also a little unsure of how that was supposed to land.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's like the funniest line. He can't think for himself. She's right. Oh, that killed me. The ending of it, like, you know, obviously the opening, like, if you've seen the movie before, you know that the opening is like the reading of the note from the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So when you're getting towards the end there, you kind of get what's gonna happen. You know, like they're gonna write a note about how much they learned about each other.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. I forgot that they pawned it all off on Brian.
Oh.
And I thought that was kind of like cruel.
Yeah.
And almost like a direct like showing of Molly Ringwald being right, because they have that whole thing about like what happens on Monday.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, awesome. This is the scene that I'm kind of waiting for, that I knew that there was something like this, but I didn't know when it happened. I don't remember what everyone says, but I knew that there was like, they reckon with the fact that, you know, we're not from the same kinds of cliques.
Yeah.
Do we stay friends? And I forgot that she was just like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. That's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it if she's like, I mean, I'm not gonna, so like, you can at least count on that from me.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the cases where it's like, that's brutal honesty, sort of. But
yeah.
At least that's the kind of honesty you want in that situation.
Yeah,
you don't
not
want it to be like
anybody.
It's, you know, and you're not leading anyone on like, oh yeah, we'll still be friends, and then
yeah.
Not.
Exactly. But I was like, oh man, I forgot that was so like flat out, that she didn't really mince words at all about it. She's just like, I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
That's not what's gonna happen. So then at the end there, it seems like it's like, well, we all know you love writing things, nerd. How about you write it?
Yeah.
And it really felt like, oh yeah, you aren't any better than you were at the beginning of the day. You know, it's like, I still don't want to write that fucking thing, so make the nerd do it.
Yeah.
That seemed a little weird to me.
I mean, she did know that he was going to write it anyways.
I mean, that's sort of what I mean, is that like, it's like Brian bought someone a present and everyone else is like, so my name's on that card, right?
Yeah.
You know, like they're
Okay.
real shitheads about it. Or it's like,
Yeah.
you should sit and write your own fucking essay.
Yeah.
Because despite the fact that it's like, oh, but we learned so much and all of that and this, like, you still cut class. Like, you're still here for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone here was framed
Yeah.
and was in detention against their wills or something. Like, it wasn't like Vernon, like, sought them out and sent them to detention because he didn't like them
Yeah.
or something like that. It's like, no, you all were supposed to be here. And I understand that you might not have, like, agreed with the subject of it.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, that's not the point. The point is that it's a punishment. I thought that was really silly in that ending, like, monologue.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, it's ridiculous for you to ask us to write a letter about who we think we are. It's like, he could have said, just like, describe the wall in front of you in 1,000 words. Like, he's just making you write so that you're punished.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the subject of it is like kind of ridiculous. It's like, who cares? Just write. The point is you're being punished. And now you're not. Now you've had a big fun day. You've smoked some weed. You made out with Judd Nelson. You're making the nerd write your essay. You haven't learned shit. Like, I had a little issue with Claire. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. She did give up a diamond.
Oh. That diamond she didn't pay for.
Yeah. Diamond.
Diamond of the millions that I'm sure she has. And that very, very end, obviously it works, especially because it's like, you know, the very end of the movie and you're showing, you know, where these characters, how far these characters have come. And you're kind of mirroring the beginning where you see, you know, how they show up shows what kind of characters they are, and then how they leave kind of shows you what characters they are, sort of thing. But there was a lot of like making out in front of parents.
Yeah.
That was definitely not my style. Like, if I was in that situation, I definitely would not have been like, oh, by the way, girl that I didn't know before I got here, I'm definitely going to be kissing you right in front of my parents' car. Even just for the fact that it's like, I don't want to get in the car and then be like, so who was that? Like, I just don't want to deal with that. Not even some sort of like Puritan, like, oh, I don't want, oh my goodness. It's just like, I don't want to deal with dumb questions like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, for the movie's sake, it makes sense. But it was just so strange that like these kids would make out with each other and then one of them would get in the car like right there that they were like leaning on. It's like, it's so strange that their parent was just like, oh, okay, I guess this is happening. Don't lean on the car and do it. Oh my god. Like,
you're gonna dent the hood.
Yeah, just like I was waiting for like a funk to like scare them out of it or something. Like, just get in the car. I want to go home. This is ridiculous. And it was, I don't know, man. It's weird. I get it. Like, I get, you know, opposites attract and blah, 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 and all of that. Judd Nelson was so cruel to her that whole movie. Yeah. And apparently literally while they were shooting too. Oh. Apparently he like stayed in character and was nasty with the kids because he was like 24 and she was still like, she was 16. Yeah. So it was just the next year after 16 Candles. So it's like, again, actual child, grown man. And now in this case, he was like berating her and mocking her and all that stuff, like on set while shooting and while not shooting, all that. You can't help but feel terrible for her.
Poor Molly.
Yeah, really. But like as a character, he's been tearing into her this whole time and just being absolutely awful. And they have said to each other that they hate each other many times. There would be absolutely no question if it was if someone asked me before the very end of the movie where it shows them like making out and all that kind of shit. Like when she opens the door and walks into the closet with him at the end of the movie, I was like, no. Claire, don't. This is bad. He has a switchblade. But like, if you had stopped it just before that and been like, does Claire ever speak to John Bender again in either of their lives? I would have said absolutely not. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, despite the fact that it's like, oh, well, we're all sitting around and we're all talking and we're all kind of getting to know each other and we've had this big old day. It's like, for one, she said she wouldn't. Yeah. Literally said, like, I probably won't talk to any of you. Yeah. And he was so specifically awful to her that I was like, yeah, no, not a chance. So the fact that they, like, quote unquote, end up together. Yeah. I was like, weird. Just weird. Big thing that we mentioned like right at the top that, Judd Nelson gives a really great performance.
Mm-hmm.
John Cusack was originally cast as John Bender.
Oh.
I almost want to see that movie more. Like, obviously, I want to see it more now because it's like, well, we have this one. So I'd like to see the alternate one. But it's like, if I had to bet, like, if someone was like, I will snap my fingers, universe will either stay exactly the same with Judd Nelson in The Breakfast Club, or universe changes, John Cusack is in The Breakfast Club. Everything else in the world stays the same somehow. Despite the butterfly effect or whatever.
Yeah.
But everything in the world stays exactly the same, except it's John Cusack. You can never change back, but you also can't like sample it. You'd have to be like, that's the one I want. I think I would go for it. I think I would change the universe and see what the John Cusack one is, even at the expense of this one, just to see. Because I fucking love John Cusack. And I feel like he would have been awesome, and he might have felt a little less like
an absolute dick?
Yeah, like a total monster dickhead. And I did think it was a little strange. For one, I thought it was a little strange that the Don't You Forget About Me song was used at the beginning too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Just bookends it.
Yeah, it just seems so like
iconic.
It's iconic, and especially with the imagery, Bender with his hand in the air and everything. So it's like, the song from the end of The Breakfast Club that you forget. It's like, also, it's the song from the beginning of The Breakfast Club. Like, oh shit, that's right. Totally forgot. Also thought it was a little bit strange, and not in any like ruining anything kind of way. Not like I was so confused, but I did think it was crazy that the title is the last line of dialogue, and it's never mentioned at any point prior.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously I get it. It's like you're in detention on a Saturday.
You met during breakfast time.
Yeah, like it makes enough sense that you're not sitting there like, the fuck does that mean, The Breakfast Club? I don't get it. But it is something where it's like, oh, for some reason in my head, I thought somebody made a reference to that earlier.
Yeah.
And they don't. And I was like, that's a little weird.
A little bit.
Not weird enough to like ruin it, but just a little weird. Also, other thing I completely forgot about, janitor.
Oh, Carl.
Completely forgot he existed or was a character in this movie.
Brian's dad.
He is weird. Wait, no. Was that Brian's dad? They make a joke about that, but I thought that was a joke.
I thought it was.
I don't think it is. No, it's not.
No? Okay.
Because in here, the character's name is Carl Reed.
Gotcha. Never
mind.
mind.
So it's not. Okay.
Sorry.
I understand, because I was completely on board for a second when they made that joke. I think Bender makes some sort of joke like, oh, Brian, it's your dad. And then he doesn't outright say anything about that. Like, hey, don't joke like that.
Yeah.
Or anything or whatever. So I was like, oh, is it his dad? But then just the way that he spoke to all of them, I was like, I don't think that's his dad. I don't think he would talk to his own kid like that. Like, I go through your shit and I listen when you talk. That was kind of strange.
It was just that he like specifically said hi to Brian.
Yeah,
when he walked in.
My assumption is that Brian is the only fucking kid who is decent enough out of the five of them to actually like say anything to a guy like the janitor. I knew of kids like that.
Yeah.
Who just acted like they weren't there. And it's like, they're fucking people, man. Come on.
Yeah.
God, fucking teenagers. That's the theme of this whole movie. That's John Hughes' filmography. Fucking teenagers. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for Popcorn for Dinner this week. This was definitely a weird one because it was like, we already knew it so well.
Yeah.
And it was really just like almost sort of a love fest for it, which is fun every once in a while.
Yeah.
But next week, I believe we're hitting one that neither of us has seen.
Yeah.
At all in any capacity.
Yeah. This like wasn't on my radar ever.
Yeah, which is super duper fun. Very excited for it.
Yes.
But yeah, that's going to wrap it up this week for Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Without lamps, there'd be no light.